Warren Buffett's team just dropped over $1 billion into two of America's most controversial home builders, Lennar and DR Horton. But here's what's really interesting. These two companies aren't just flipping homes. They're quietly becoming some of the biggest landlords in America through something called build to rent. I operate over 3,000 BTR doors across multiple states. And I want to walk you through what's happening behind the scenes that most people don't fully understand yet. Now, Buffett's not betting on homebuyers. He's betting on renters. More specifically, he's betting on companies that can build, they can hold, and they can lease and scale. Now, DR Horton has built over 14,000 rental homes. And guess what? They're going to build a whole lot more. Now, Lennar has now partnered with Invitation Homes on a multi-billion-dollar rental portfolio. Now, this is super interesting. Some of the biggest players in the home building world are now transitioning to a build-to-rent model. Think about this. There are now over 350,000 institutional-owned rental homes in the U.S. And guess what? It's continuing to climb. Build-to-rent now makes up 9% of all new single-family construction, and that's up significantly from the past couple years. BTR homes often rent for 10 to 40% more than comparable apartments. The surface level story here is about affordability, but behind the scenes, this is about platforms, about scale, about systems, and long-term cash flow for their investors. Now, when developers start exploring build to rent, they usually focus on the surface metrics. Rents, absorption, cap rates. But the real edge is how well the project is set operationally. Lease-up delays can create serious NOI losses. Now, let's dive in. Design is in the details, like trash location, package lockers, parking flow that can make or break operations. What's your staffing model like? They're often oversized or misaligned. We have too many people on site for this community when back-end operations can handle what those front-end teams were doing. Think about staffing and your model and how that's going to come and align with these communities. Now, what's the resident experience going to be like? These are designing a more family-operated community. I have an area, I have landscaping, I have a lawn, I have a backyard. What are things that are important to people in this day and age? Why do you think build to rent is continuing to climb? Now, we've worked with a group that saved nearly $180,000 over 5 years from a small layout correction. It wasn't flashy, but it made a real difference. If you're in the middle of planning a BTR community, we put together a case study that breaks down what we've learned after scaling over 3,000 of these units. This is not a sales pitch. It's just a real example of how small decisions during design can lead to a stronger retention, cleaner operations, and better margins. You can get this at going to corybonner.com/case study to find out more about what we've done to make a very successful community. If your end goal is to hold that asset or maybe eventually sell your BTR community, you need to know what buyers are actually evaluating. Institutional buyers want clean books, smooth operations, and a stable tenant retention. Now, the numbers that they watch are staffing ratios per unit, average lease-up times, retention rates, and maintenance costs. Now, if you don't have this information or you're not building this out in this community, because ultimately everyone wants to sell to get that NOI at the end of the day. So you need clean books. You need information that is meaningful for that end buyer. So the community has to lease well and run well. It's like a really well-oiled machine to justify a bulk acquisition of these build-to-rent communities. It's not just will it rent, it's will it perform like a system. These companies are building recurring revenue engines. That's what we're seeing today. Berkshire and Hathaway, they're going all in. They're buying up Lennar, DR Horton, huge stocks and shares. Because guess what? They know the trend. They know where it's going. So if you want to compete, you have to think like Warren Buffett. Build to rent is still evolving. This is still a very new concept, build to rent. Communities that are for rent. Typically single family, townhouses that have a backyard, have space, that feel like it's your home. Now, what's working today is often based on hard lessons that have been learned over the past few years. The best projects that we have seen, they start operations early before that plan is submitted. Builders, developers bring in their management team, whether in-house or third party. They're in early to figure out what type of teams do we need? How does the site lay out? What are the best things to put in place for a fully complete operational community? One that someone wants to live there long term. It's not just a rental that I move in till my next job or my next life change. It's a place where people want to live long term. So these teams need their leasing and marketing strategies together. They need to map out the community before construction starts. Your management team and the architect of this project need to speak the same language, need to understand each other. A management group understanding the architect and how it's being designed and how it's flowing through, and they meld together, is when you get your best project. When you get your best community, it's important to meld these together, to know how is the community going to perform over a long period of time. We have learned these things that make sense. Where are we placing certain things? How does the community flow? Now, the less you leave to chance post-construction, the more margins you'll protect. The more that people will want to stay here as their home because you've thought about the design, how it flows. How are people going to use this community? You want it to be a place where people call home. Now, this BTR isn't just this new design trend. It's more of an operational shift. It's how people want to live, how people want to be a part of the management. How is management going to present a better experience for that end user? Now, the sooner that these developers recognize that, the more competitive they'll be, specifically in that 80 to 230 unit range. Now, I just want to close out here that we think about what these big builders are doing. Lennar, DR Horton, we have Berkshire Hathaway, and the man himself, Warren Buffett. They're all jumping in to this BTR game to see that institutions are now some of the highest holders of real estate of these BTR communities in the country. And it's only getting more. Institutions are buying and gobbling up as many of these as possible. And they're building more. Build to rent isn't magic. It's difficult to do well. But when done right, especially at scale, it outperforms nearly every other asset class I've worked in. If you're working on a project and you want to go deeper, I've built a case study so you can see it. Go to corybonner.com/case study. And if you go through it, drop comments into it, as I'm happy to share what we've seen work in the field and continue to educate those that are building our homes for the future. It's getting really difficult these days to be able to buy and own your own home. But if you're going to rent, you need to rent in a community that you enjoy, that you want to be a part of, because these days it's getting harder and harder to come by financing and the cost associated to owning your own home.